On today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we'll be discussing the Florida Panthers' 7-3 loss against the Boston Bruins, where the goaltender on the other side looked like a Vezina Trophy candidate, while the other looked like he hadn't played in a while and looked a little bit rusty. We're going to discuss this and more on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, December 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Don't forget to also enter our contest to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Vancouver Canucks game on Saturday, January 14th at FLA Live Arena by subscribing to the Locked On Florida Panthers YouTube channel and send in your screenshot and your 5-star rating on whichever podcast app you listen to Locked On Panthers, and send it over to me via DM at LO_FLA Panthers on Twitter, or via email at lockedonflapanthers@gmail.com. So the Florida Panthers, they go into Boston. We knew this was going to be a very tough matchup against a team that came into the night 16-0-2 on the season. We spoke about on yesterday's show, their 2 losses at home came via shootouts, and the Boston Bruins being healthier than expected from the beginning of the season after reports of Marchand and McAvoy, Grzelcyk being out for an extended period of time, and they've just gotten their mojo from the start. Linus Ullmark in his second season with the Boston Bruins just continuing to look like a Vezina Trophy candidate and is the favorite. And we saw that tonight. Florida Panthers got behind early, made it a game, and then Boston took this one away. 4 unanswered goals, then 3 unanswered goals, then 3 unanswered goals. All the teams alternating those runs, and it came with really the Panthers not jumping out to the fastest of starts on Monday in the first period, but they did get the first chance. I mean, Colin White go in his first game back in quite some time, and a chance on Linus Ullmark. Hampus Lindholm crashes into his own goalie. Honestly, even though that wasn't called a goal with the whole intent to blow the whistle, that's not the reason why the Panthers lost the game. Honestly, once that shot happened, I mean, I went to write down on my notes as well, thinking that the play was over, and even I thought the play was over. So people might want to argue whether it should have been a goal or not. I thought it was the play was over. I was more upset really about the tripping calls that weren't called on Matthew Tkachuk by Brad Marchand that created a scoring opportunity for Brad Marchand that created an open lane on Spencer Knight, even though Spencer Knight made the save. And even on that first goal by Clifton, Denisenko was tripped before the shot even happened from the left circle. And the Bruins know how to work the puck around, took away the middle of the ice early for the Panthers, eliminated neutral zone and rush chances. Even on that second goal on the rush, the Brendan Carlo trailing, which that puck was just almost came out of the zone, but just didn't. Beats Knight from the point, and it looked. I don't know if Spencer Knight had a clear view but from the TV angle, it looked like that he had time, no traffic in front, even though the Panthers were getting back on defense. Didn't look like that anyone was blocking him. And then the third one, 2 straight cross ice passes, one from the red line to the blue line across cross ice, and then the second pass right in the neutral zone where Charlie Coyle beats Spencer Knight, and no traffic in front. That was just a continuous theme for the Panthers. And then the Panthers down 3-0. Sam Bennett takes a penalty, and just when it rained, it poured for the Panthers. I mean, second period was really the start of the attack for the Panthers. One of multiple chances on Linus Ullmark. We saw him on his back a lot, and the Panthers continuously hacking at him. That was just one of them. And then just boneheaded mistakes. Gus Forsling gets a delay of game penalty, and David Pastrnak converts on a rebound by Spencer Knight. And Spencer Knight, that was a very juicy rebound on that one. And it was 4-0. And then the Panthers were down 4-0 at one point against the Boston Bruins just a little over 3 years ago on November 12th, 2019. You remember Mike Hoffman scoring a shootout winner, Sam Montembeault between the pipes for the Panthers in that game. The Panthers made it a game. I mean, the scoring 3 goals in a 5 minute and 20-second span. I mean, the Bruins were giving the puck away in their own zone. The Panthers were forechecking well. Rhino gets his second chance on Kiersted's shot of his 400th point, by the way. But then there was Randy Moeller caught this on the broadcast. Of course, he's there in person. We can't really see this from the camera because the camera doesn't always point to the bench. A possible too many men on the ice that was possibly missed by the refs. But even then, a chance to come back in that 5 minute and 20-second span. Montour just skating through the zone, forcing the Bruins D to just be back to in their zone, and then just that quick shot pass from Gus Forsling to Eric Stahl, and Eric Stahl getting his 7th point in his last 10 games. So he's starting to come alive, and even when Carter Verhaeghe stole the puck and did the between the legs under to beat Ullmark, which was originally ruled no goal and then reviewed for a goal. So not the best officiating performance, but they got that call right as far as reviewing it, and just multiple chances for Brendan Carlo and Linus Ullmark to glove it, and then Brendan Carlo to get it into the glove of Linus Ullmark, and then just Verhaeghe pickpocketing Brendan Carlo, and Verhaeghe was Brendan Carlo's daddy in that sequence. And I mean, even with that, the Panthers had a chance on an illegal check to the head that Pastrnak had on Gus Forsling, a chance to tie the game. And even dealing with more injuries after that. I mean, Etu goes out for a bit. Zach Delpy even played some top line minutes. Colin White played some top line minutes for the Panthers. I mean, the Panthers have been limping. Of course, Barkov doesn't play again. Anton Lundell doesn't play again. Radko Gudas doesn't play again. But just they had their chances despite them being down. And when you get your hopes up, nope. Just comeback catch just isn't a thing this year. They cut it close, but it's just comeback hasn't been completed. And the 5th goal right before the second intermission, I don't know if Spencer Knight thought the goal was in from Hampus Lindholm when it was off the post, and then David Krejci picks it up and shoots it in off the rebound. But I don't know if Spencer thought that was in, but it's just a little mental error by Spencer Knight. And I mean, he's starting his first game in how many weeks since the Winnipeg game? No, I I think that's like 2 weeks ago, more like. I forget. Dates are weird to really catch up on when you're just living in the moment when in the season. But I think it was 2 weeks ago now. But just, and 3 to 4 times we saw in that period, we saw Linus Ullmark on his back. The Eric Stahl line created chances. The Kachuk line created chances as well in a less than a minute span. And also being down by 2, a 4-on-3 opportunity with so much open ice. And that trip by Eetu Luostarinen on Charlie McAvoy, not a fan of that. I thought McAvoy embellished a little bit, and but of course that slash, 4-on-4, Verhaeghe gets hooked, and you still have so much open ice on that 4-on-3, and then there's not a lot of puck movement when you've been dominating in the last 2 periods. And I don't know what happened with the Panthers. There's just overthinking a lot on that. That was your chance, and they didn't give themselves an opportunity to cut the deficit to 1. But I mean, anyways, that goal even prior to that was really that told me that the Panthers were just not going to come back. I mean, and then Patrice Bergeron getting the last 2 goals, neutral zone turnover, and then when Bergeron takes it by himself, he's not going to miss often. And then that last one just to really put the icing on the cake for the Bruins. I mean, a shot that was bounced off a Panthers player, and then Patrice Bergeron gets it, and then beats Spencer Knight. I mean, Spencer Knight, 19 of 26, 731 save percentage on that one after not playing for over 2 weeks. And it's just and Linus Ullmark on the other side, a guy who's likely the favorite to win the Vezina this year. I mean, he had a winning record, even though goalie wins are in stats. He had a winning record in his last season with Buffalo, in a season where they won the lottery after and got the number 1 overall pick in Owen Power. Like, there were signs that this guy was pretty damn good, and some people thought it was an overpay, but it's turning out to be the right decision. And they got another young and up and coming goaltender in Jeremy Swayman as well, who the Panthers saw in their second matchup. But Linus Ullmark, man, even there was also a sequence where the puck was so many Panthers on the blue paint, and then the puck gets loose and bounces towards the blue line. Gus Forsling has a slap shot, and then Linus Ullmark just glove saves it like it's nothing, generating so many opportunities. And the difference in this game was goaltending for the Panthers. And when you get great goaltending at one point, then and lack of offense or silly defense giving up outman rushes, once again it's always something different. And once again it's always a different injury as well for the Panthers, even though Eetu Luostarinen was able to come back in this game for the Panthers. But in segment number 2, we're gonna discuss the where the Panthers really stand with goaltending for the Panthers. We're gonna spend a segment talking about that here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're gonna tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline is your number 1 source for all your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Got all the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football, college bowl season, basketball. We've got it all at BetOnline. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today, use a mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Second segment here on this Tuesday, December 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers lose to the Boston Bruins by a final score of 7-3 at the TD Garden. And just a overall not so good performance by the goaltending for the Panthers. And I try not to put too much blame on goaltending whenever it comes to like recaps or just talking about the state of the team. But I will give Spencer a little bit of a pass after not playing for a couple weeks, dealing with an illness, even though he was good enough to be a backup. But even Paul Maurice said it after the game, where the only way you learn is by going out there, putting on the mask, and just playing. And just the lateral movement of Spencer Knight wasn't there. Just the ability to get back up after a rebound was just not there. And even giving up the juicy rebounds as well, it was just quite a bit. And the perimeter shots too. Not a lot of traffic, and those goals were going in. It was 5-hole. There was one under the blocker, as well. Just overall bad goaltending performance, and Spencer Knight will acknowledge that too. He's not gonna but he's a very even-keeled person. He knows that he is going to be ready for his next one. And honestly, if I'm Paul Maurice, you know what? Put him in the next game. Put him there. Why not? The best way for him to get over this is to start the next game and start it quickly, versus a lot of time in between starts. And that's what I would do if I were the coach. Sergei Bobrovsky has had a big workload over the last few weeks. I mean, he's used to it. But give Spencer Knight the next start. I'd like to see what this kid can do. And we've seen so many brilliant flashes of him. I hope this is just one, and we don't see a lot of these again. But that's, in my opinion, the best way to forget about Monday's performance. And I got a tweet in my mentions on Monday, like I believe it was after the 5th goal, asking, why is Robert Tallis still the coach? I mean, for those of you who haven't followed the Panthers as that long, I mean, Robert Tallis has been the goaltending coach longer than I've been a fan of the Panthers. I started, for those of you guys who need a reminder, I've been following this team since 2012. Robert Tallis has been with the organization since 2009. So multiple coaching staffs for the Panthers. So he's been through Peter DeBoer. He's been through Gerard Gallant. He's been through Bob Bugner. He's been through Joel Quenneville. He's been through Andrew Burnett. Now Paul Maurice. And sure, you could put some blame on Robert Tallis on how Sergei Bobrovsky has played Spencer Knight at times, even not being able to develop a Jacob Markstrom or a Sam Montembeault. But on a night like tonight, if you're looking at tonight specifically, not the whole grand scheme of things for the Panthers, half of the goals that Spencer Knight let in were perimeter shots with no traffic. Regardless of coaching, you got to make those saves. And does Tallis deserve some blame? Yes. I'm not denying that. But when it's just getting under the blocker, when it's not even a slot shot, and I mean, the Bruins were getting their fair share of slot shots in the first period. I believe the advantage was like 6-2 in the first period, and then the Panthers really buckled it down, and they were controlling the play. I mean, the shots on goal to end this game for the Panthers, I mean, was like 38-27, I believe. 39-26. And Spencer Knight letting in 7 of them, 19 of 26, 731 save percentage. It's just flat out got to be better. And I'll give him a little bit of a pass for not starting for a few weeks, and maybe a little bit of nervousness as well, because he played 2 seasons at Boston College. It's a place that he loves coming to. It's a little bit of a homecoming every time he plays. Maybe a little bit of nervousness came into his mind for when he played there. But still, that's not an excuse to perform the way he did. And he will say that as well. This isn't news to him, or this isn't going to be insightful information for him specifically. But again, have him start the next game. I would love to see him start the next game. Also with the next game, you give the opponent that you just recently faced a different goaltender versus what you had the previous game. And just really the Bally Sports broadcast, they really mentioned it from the second game on. The Panthers have just been hobbling all season long, with Ekblad's injury to start. And how many times is Radko Gudas going to be a game time decision and then him not play? Damn it, you're getting my hopes up, Paul Maurice. Hopefully we could see Radko Gudas the next game. By the way, for Barkov's status, I had not even mentioned this yet. Barkov's day-to-day. That's your Barkov update. But after the way Nico Hischier got his stick onto the knee, I'm not going to expect Barkov to play on Wednesday. Lundell hasn't even hit the ice for the Panthers. I'm not expecting him to play Wednesday nor Friday. He's probably going to be back after the holiday break. But man, this holiday break couldn't have come at a better time for this Panthers team. The holiday break is when Patrick Hornquist is eligible to come back from LTIR as well on the 29th against Montreal. Anthony Duclair started skating. We will have a lot to talk about with the 6 days off that the Panthers will have once we get back from the Christmas weekend. But let's not count our eggs before they hatch. Let's just get through these next 2 games first before we do. In segment number 3, we are going to go around the league. We are going to maybe even look at the standings and talk about where the Panthers stand, because they just can't put things together right now. It's just as up and down as can be. And of course, preview the game on Wednesday, where we recently just saw this opponent in the New Jersey Devils. So keep it right here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast on this Tuesday, December 20th edition of the show, where the Florida Panthers drop their game against the Boston Bruins by a final score of 7-3 at the TD Garden. So, some scores around the league. The Dallas Stars defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets by a final score of 2-1. Well, also, speaking of the Blue Jackets, Boone Jenner, he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks, and he's going to be getting surgery as well. So another blow injury-wise for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Washington Capitals defeat the Detroit Red Wings. Let's see if Ovi scored. I don't see that Ovi scored. So what an incredible story that would have been for Alexander Ovechkin to tie Gordie Howe's record against Gordie Howe's team. The Nashville Predators defeat the Edmonton Oilers by a final score of 4-3 in overtime. And the current games that are going on, Isles versus Avalanche 0-0. Avalanche are going through their fair share of injuries. Gabe Landeskog still out. Buffalo's defeating Vegas right now. Jack Eichel facing against his former team. And the Montreal Canadiens and the Arizona Coyotes are tied at 1 right now. And you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to look at the standings. And right now, the Panthers' goal differential, right back at 0. Mediocre. As mediocre as can be. And right now, they're 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. And all you just got to do is get 3 or 4 wins together. And it hasn't happened yet. We hear all about this even on the broadcast. Even other fellow media members have said the Panthers are going to go on their run. And there's only so much I could beat the dead horse until it actually happens. Then we could be optimistic about the Panthers making the postseason. But right now, it's not looking good for the Cats. And you know what? The way the Panthers dominated those last 2 periods, if they get a decent amount of goaltending, that could be a very, very fun first-round matchup. At this point, I'm not expecting the Panthers to be in the top 3 with Boston, Toronto, Tampa Bay. They're going to be scratching and clawing for that wild card. It's going to come down to the last final 5 games. And this is a little bit of a gauntlet that the Panthers are going through right now. You just recently faced 2 first-place teams in the Devils and the Bruins. Recently faced a hot Penguins team who just recently had their winning streak snapped by Carolina. That was one hell of a matchup between Carolina and Pittsburgh for positioning in the Metro Division. You're going to get New Jersey again. And then this is the important one. One of the teams that are right in front of you in the New York Islanders. And you have 2 wins over them. Of course, the Islanders are a team you've beaten twice, and they've had a little bit of growing pains with getting a new system after firing Barry Trotz this offseason. But this could be a very, very different Islanders team that the Panthers come up against when they visit UBS Arena on Friday. But right now, the Panthers have the New Jersey Devils once again ahead of them. Thankfully, they're facing Carolina on Tuesday. So this could be very favorable for the Cats. This could be. It's a TNT nationally televised game. Don't know who the broadcasters are yet. I haven't gotten an email on saying who they are. But the 2 games, they might send the A team to the second game, the 9:30 game, because it's Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers versus Jason Robertson, Jake Ottinger, and the Dallas Stars. And the Stuart Skinner just got an extension, so he might be the future of the Edmonton Oilers, along with and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl just being able to score at will. TNT might send the B team to South Florida for their game for the Florida Panthers versus New Jersey Devils, but it's an opportunity to see a team that you recently saw, and who knows? Said it yesterday, and who knows? Nico Hischier could get a lot of boos every time he touches the puck at FLA Live Arena. That's after what happened with Barkov on on Saturday night. So this one stings, even though Panthers generated a lot of chances. If you get a little bit of decent goaltending, you could have maybe gotten a point out of this, but just bad performance by Spencer Knight. I can't say that enough of how not great of a performance that was. But we haven't seen too much of these. I mean, the other one I can think of is 8-2 against the Ottawa Senators last December. Just actually a year and 5 days ago. That was December 14th, 2021. So just over a year ago. So hopefully this is the last one of the year for Spencer, and we don't see this for a long time. Goalies are going to go through this. But once again, I hope Paul Maurice starts in the next game. That's what I hope. And we'll see. The Panthers will be off tomorrow. And then right before they face the New Jersey Devils because of them traveling back from Massachusetts. But tomorrow, we might or might not have a Wine-Ins Wednesday on Wednesday due to Jacob being out of school and possibly going on vacation. So we might have a different type of episode on Wednesday morning / afternoon. So just be prepared just in case we aren't able to make it happen. We've been in communication about it, and this is a time where he's off of school. So if he wants some time off, he deserves some time off. So we could have a Wine-Ins Wednesday. We possibly won't have a Wine-Ins Wednesday. So you'll know once the episode drops on Wednesday morning. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today give you a 20-minute or less podcast on the entirety of the sports scene, including exclusive interviews and the take of the day. Locked On Sports Today, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.